Part 46 begins with a moment of quiet after the storm. The cameras may have stopped rolling, the transcripts may have been filed, but the consequences of what transpired between Jasmine Crockett and Pam Bondi continue to unfold in the public consciousness. The name of Jeffrey Epstein lingers, not just as a reminder of past crimes, but as a symbol of systemic failure and the necessity for vigilant oversight. Crockett's insistence that survivors be acknowledged was not merely rhetorical, it was a deliberate insistence that human experience must take precedence over procedural ease. Bondi's steadfast reliance on legal and historical context was equally deliberate, a signal that institutions maintain integrity by adhering to rules even under intense scrutiny. Between the moral demand and the procedural defense, the exchange crystallized the ongoing challenge of balancing empathy with order in democratic governance. What emerges most vividly is the dual nature of accountability revealed in the hearing. Crockett's approach emphasized recognition and moral responsibility. She made it clear that formal procedures are insufficient if the human dimension is ignored. The intensity of her questioning reflected the urgency of that principle. Public trust depends on institutions visibly acknowledging harm. Bondi's approach emphasized structural integrity and contextual fairness. By grounding her responses in legal frameworks and historical timelines, she highlighted that justice is not simply about acknowledgement, it is also about evaluating actions within the constraints under which they occurred. The tension between these approaches is the very dynamic that makes oversight effective. Without it, accountability risks becoming either performative or rigidly procedural. The cultural and psychological undertones of the exchange are equally important. Epstein's legacy evokes collective frustration and skepticism toward powerful institutions. Crockett's forceful insistence mirrored public sentiment demanding transparency and recognition. Bondi's composed defense mirrored the societal expectation that governance remains measured and principled even amid outrage. This duality explains why the moment resonated so widely. It encapsulated the conflicting yet coexisting desires for moral clarity and institutional stability. The audience is left to interpret which approach aligns more closely with justice, or more importantly, to recognize that both are necessary to maintain a functioning democratic system. The optics of conviction also played a pivotal role. Crockett's intensity conveyed alignment with public urgency, signaling that emotional resonance matters in oversight. Bondi's steadiness conveyed authority and control, signaling that measured evaluation underpins credible governance. These signals influenced public perception as much as the content of the answers themselves. The exchange demonstrated that accountability is both substantive and performative. What officials say, how they say it, and the context in which they say it all contribute to the perception of legitimacy. Looking forward, the repercussions of this moment are subtle but enduring. Future hearings will reflect the recalibration of expectations. Explicit acknowledgement of human impact will be expected alongside precise procedural explanation. Officials will enter oversight settings prepared to address both moral and legal dimensions, understanding that public scrutiny now demands dual accountability. These shifts illustrate how democratic systems evolve incrementally through repeated high-stakes moments that redefine norms rather than through instantaneous reform. The demonstration of institutional resilience is particularly striking. Even under sharp questioning, the framework held. Crockett pressed with moral urgency. Bondi defended with procedural rigor. The institution did not collapse, but it was tested visibly, showing that conflict, when contained, strengthens rather than undermines democratic structures. This lesson is crucial. Oversight works best not when tension is avoided, but when it is managed constructively within defined parameters. Finally, the enduring insight of this episode is that meaningful accountability is never singular. It is the alignment of recognition and procedure, empathy and law, intensity and composure. The Crockett-Bondi exchange revealed that balance is neither effortless nor automatic. It must be negotiated actively and visibly. For citizens observing this process, the responsibility continues beyond passive consumption. Demand acknowledgement, insist on context, and hold institutions to a standard that respects both moral clarity and structural integrity. Because the strength of democracy lies not in eliminating tension, but in channeling it productively. And this exchange serves as a masterclass in exactly that principle.